So I would like to present or introduce you to the BonaRes Repository and show you some recent development we have achieved and we have planned according to quality assurance for data and citation strategies. So my name is Carsten Hoffmann from the ZALF Müncheberg, and this presentation was made by me and Nikolai Svoboda, who is not available this morning. Some of you might have heard about the project BonaRes, which is running since 2015 in Germany. It's a quite huge project with a quite long duration of 9 years. And included to this project are recently 16 collaborative projects which try to find solutions to provide strategies for sustainable soil management in Germany. And included to this project are more than 50 institutions, so you can see it's a quite huge project, and a lot of research data are collected during this time. And this was the reason why the donor also included the center, the BonaRes Centre. And within this BonaRes Centre, with the red box, there's a data repository where we are involved to collect and to manage the research data which are collected within this project. Let me give you a short or a simplified user story or a typical user story. If you want to modeling soil functions, you might demand different properties of the data. You need a small catchment scale, for instance, with a very high resolution. The temporal resolution is of minor interest for you, but data should be quality approved and legally sound and so on. So you ask, or you're seeking for data within the BonaRes repository. The data come from the scientific community, especially when we present the BonaRes data, which also handle very much the soil function topic, but we are also open for external data, not only for project data. So the modeler might seek for this kind of data within the BonaRes repository and does his model. And as the model was done, the outcome of the model again can be included to this to the BonaRes repository. So we provide, or the aim of the repository is to provide reproducible, citable, and reusable data, which are in line with the fair data principles. So I need to shorten your picture. Richard, you are too big in my presentation. No, it's better. Sorry. So research data should be reproducible, of course, and also for the reuse should be citable, which is in line with the fair data principles. And additionally to the fair data principles, our goal or our BonaRes data principle is to make the data available for free reuse. And this is according especially to those data which are generated within public funded projects in line with the Berlin Declaration in 2003. So not only fair data, but also open, accessible data. The rights of the authors, of course, must be respected, and we need strategies to provide a user-friendly way for reuse. So just keep in mind, if you make a huge data analysis or a modeling with many different data sets, the in-paper citation should not be extended too much with hundreds or thousands of DOIs. And for this, we plan to combine research study or research studies should be combined to meaningful and reduced numbers of tables. Additionally, the level of aggregation, of data aggregation, should be match the potential reuse, and all attributes which are necessary for the reuse should be included within this table or be available with somehow related tables. So let us come to a typical data set we manage here in the BonaRes repository. So in research, most data sets are far away from big data. Most are or typically are standalone Excel tables. And the data provider or the data owner would like to upload this data set to the BonaRes repository. And for this, he can use the data upload tool we have developed for data submission. And after the submission or during the submission, he can also edit the metadata which are connected to this data set within the metadata editor. And in the end, the data are published, get an DOI, and is available via the BonaRes portal, data portal. So for the upload tool or within the upload tool, different information can be provided, which are necessary or mandatory, of course, title or a short description, which project is connected to this data set, and also the guidelines. Data guidelines from BonaRes must be agreed during this upload process. What is going on then after the data set is or the upload tool is started? We get this data set, provide some quality checks. During all the workflow, we make different backups to not lose any data during this process. We help the data owner to provide his metadata, and part of the metadata are, for instance, keyword annotation and also the provision of legal aspects. And then this data set, if all steps are done, transferred to the SQL database within this repository. Just one slide for quality checks. So we provide, of course, in the first stage, formal checks. Data should be in the right format. The names of the columns should be follow some rules and so on. But we also provide in this initial phase of data submission some content-related checks. For instance, we can identify outlier or data gaps, and we also make manually for selected columns checks if the data set is possible or plausible. So if there is a negative yield, then this is not possible. So we give a feedback to the data owner. Or if the yield is, let's say, 120 tons per hectare, then this value might be not very plausible. So we are in a feedback system with the data owner. And we also give or provide some manual statistical tests, and in the next phase or in the next step is planned to develop a tool to automate this process. And in this autumn, we will hold a workshop on quality assurance, which will be an online workshop. And if you're interested to attend, you can contact me. And yeah, we are going to collect different other tools to improve the quality of the data which coming to our repository. But we have not only standalone data sets, we also have data collections. So again, coming to the yield data can also be part of a long-term field experiment. And for long-term field experiments, which are data treasures, which should be collected, and which we collect also in BonaRes repository, we developed a scheme within, including 30 tables, and these tables are linked by primary and foreign keys to each other, and so also collections of data can be uploaded and are uploaded in our repository. And this linkage between these single tables is also part of the metadata. And for the metadata, we developed in the beginning our own scheme, which is based on Inspire. Inspire metadata for especially interoperability and geodata. And we merged this scheme with the DataSite scheme, which includes elements for DOI, and it's also of importance for scientists, of course, for their reputation. So we merged these both schemes and added to the scheme the so-called data model, or the description of attribute data, units, methods, and so on, which are typically used in soil and agricultural science. And this was published in a paper, or in 2 papers actually, which you can also download. So this metadata scheme is quite large, so it takes some time for the researcher to upload or to add the metadata to their data set. But these metadata are always CC0 licensed and enable that metadata are harvestable within the repository. And the metadata are uploaded via the metadata editor. And here we have different tabs. For instance, the categorization, and within the categorization, there are keywords. And for keywording or the semantic annotation, we primarily use the AgroVoc thesaurus. And the thesaurus is connected or integrated via SparQL endpoint to our editor. So user can easily select AgroVoc keywords. And if we go to the last tab, the data model, we see the description of each column, column name, also the unit is listed there. And in the next step, or the next step of the development will be that also these names and the units will be part of semantic annotation. Coming to the last part of my presentation, about when this data set is now published, how to cite these data. So we developed different recommendations or methods to cite these data. So a classical data set is here listed, Grosse and Herold, and they published a data set for the long-term field experiments in Germany, get the DOI, and no changes, of course, after publishing is necessary. But what happens now if we have an update? So let's say minor supplements, we get no yield data or new experiments within this data set. So the DOI can stay then the same, but we get the additional information that this data set is updated on some point in the future. So this is just a it's not a real data set here or a real update. It's just to show you the principle when a data set is updated. And if there are major changes, like we have some recalculations or a new structure, we provide a new DOI and then also a new year here, the year 29. If we going back to the data collection, like the agricultural long-term experiment data, for this we provide one DOI for the whole collection, and this is then comparable to a book chapter when you cite this data set. So if you want to cite the whole experiment, the plots table, which describes the experimental setup, is decided to be the mother table in our concept or in our scheme. So then you cite it like this blue button. And if you want to cite only a single table, like again the yield table within this experimental setup, then you add this this phrase table double point yield to this data set, that you not have to force the data or the reader of your publication to go through all the tables and to find your data you cite. And the last citation recommendation we have is according to data subsets. So if you want to reuse only small parts of a very comprehensive table, then you can use the phrase columns, like in this example, columns 40 to 48. And this points only to single attributes, which is comparable to single page numbers in a publication. But you not only have to point to different columns, you also can point to different lines. Again, coming to a long-term field experiment, if you are only interested in data from the 1970s and or 1916 and 1970s, you can add this phrase year 63 to 1980, that the data reuser or the reader of your publication can find these data set more easily. Here, the links are placed together. You can contact me all the time if you want to have more information. And then I would like to say thank you in the name of the whole team. And I'm open for some questions. Thank you.